And if I were to sort of put it in a very simple way, I think if there are like, so many of these conversations that are happening, you have to make sure that the one person that you don't stop communicating with is yourself. That's what sort of like a big part of me was a little calmer because I didn't stop doing that. And in a very funny way that because it's also like my first time, I was trying to figure out how to do it while doing it. So I think a part of me also personified the film at a point of time to sort of try and talk to the film. That also helps you gain a little bit of perspective in terms of what's going to happen if things don't go the right way. Uh, with an indie production where you're trying to make a film with like a 7 kilo 7 kilo costume on a person and one other actor on a terrace in a uncertain weather, it's extremely important to absolutely love what you're doing. I feel at the crux of it, if you get people together and sort of tell them how much you want to do this from a very deep point within you, then the synergy takes care of itself. Uh, the one other thing that I mean, this is something that I've mentioned earlier also, and because the nature of our film was, I'm not going to deny, it was a little bizarre to shoot. The sight of seeing someone stand behind a camera and say a couple of lines, and for some actor in a cloth to just move their body, and the other person to just react in a certain way. Beyond a point of time, the people who are around you are trying to make sense of what's happening. And sometimes one of the biggest points of confidence that comes to you when you're on set is when there's a really good scene happening, the most honest reactions that you'll see are probably from the lightmen or from the camera attendants or like, from the technical crew who really don't, maybe not invested in what's happening. And it used to be very funny to see the reactions that we would get. And this is something that I've told before also, but it just keeps coming back to me. One of the camera assistants on the on the third day, who also like knew me from earlier projects, he walked up to me and he asked me, "Sir, kya chal raha hai?" And so like a part of you gets a little worried that okay, like you're trying to make this film where one person is not seen, the other person can't talk. You have this aspirational idea of communicating through telepathy, so it feels like you're setting out for something. If it doesn't land, it may not land, it may completely go down south, but I think it all comes down to taking a leap and making the film that you want to see, and that's what keeps you going.
Yeah, I think it sort of, I guessed it was a first film in the best way possible, because there was an audacity to it that I don't think maybe 10 years down the line you might want to do. But yeah, it's, and I was going to ask about the subtitles, and how that was your language of communication, and how you shot it must have been very complicated, and especially to watch and execute. So thank you for answering that. Shailesh?
Um, I think for me, I stay away from putting my emotions into the script. I think it's very important that, because I also feel that ki I need to have as much objectivity to the story as possible. I don't want to put myself into the script, because like that will come anyways. So intentionally, if I do it and go into this procrastination, that's just like lethal for the storytelling. And the other thing is how Milind and Omkar said that, like, if you have a great crew, you don't have to be scared about anything. You can just go with the flow. And also, filmmaking is pretty much like uh, all about communication and collaboration. So every time, like, whenever I'm kind of writing, like, okay, earlier, like, I used to visualize the script. Then, like, sometimes some people don't go with the words rather than the visual part of it. So all these things, basically, I think if you keep doing it, like, I feel I start having a distance. And when you have this trust, and एक चीज ये भी होता है कि जब मैं एटलीस्ट मैं फिल्म बना रहा होता, तो मेरा होता है कि अच्छा, ये अगर 100 है तो ये कितने परसेंट तक is closer to my visual idea or whatever. But like on the set, I never kind of go for like total control of it, because I feel that there are a lot of other people who have a much better idea of how they are seeing the script. अगर मैं ज़्यादा उसको पकड़ूंगा तो मेरे को लगता है कि वो नीचे उस परसेंटेज में नीचे ही जाता रहेगा. So I think also the fun part of it, like when the film ends and when you see it, you know, like, okay, as a director, there's also one more problem. You'll always see the problems in the film, you know, and but uh, जब कोई और करे तो of course और बुरा लगता है कि क्यों नहीं हुआ ऐसे मेरे को कंट्रोल लेना चाहिए था ये करना चाहिए था but I feel that's just part of the process. You know, you won't ever be able to reach 100%. You know, even if you come close to 75, that's amazing. And yeah, that's it.
Samar.
So I don't remember what the question is, but I just go extempo. No, I just wanted to add something that Omkar said because see, shooting a film without very less dialogues, at least he had subtitles. So I'll tell you a funny story about. So I'll tell you a funny story about. Yeah. Subtitles. मतलब कुछ तो है placeholder. मतलब I'll tell you why I'm telling you this. Okay. So before the shoot, before
regulator था ना?
हाँ regulator था हाँ. Before the shoot, my executive producer Mithun, who's sitting with us here, Mithun is like, story तो हो गया, लिख दिया story. Screenplay कहाँ है? Because I need to, you know, do lots of things, other short breakdown. So I cult out him for many days. Then I realized that इसका screenplay नहीं हो सकता है. मैं क्या लिखूँगा? Because screenplay में actually there has to be some meat, which is the dialogue, which tells the character what is happening, what is going on. In this, there is nothing. Mami aschi. I'm leaving, and then the next dialogue is something else. Okay, in the third page. So we actually had to go from story to short breakdown directly for a film like this. Okay, there was no screenplay. So that was a very difficult thing because till the time the edit came together and music came together, we could have gone horribly wrong with this film. You know? Luckily, as he was saying, 75%, I think we are 75% of what we wanted to achieve. Of course, there are practical problems with a self-funded indie project. Like you can't shoot endlessly. You have to, you know, you have to be a lot of very cognizant about the. So I tell people that I think I'm a decent director and a writer. I had a fantastic producer who said, "Do what you want," which is me. So that's the. So that's the. This film has been done. If you ask me why this story and other no, this film has been done because, honestly speaking, I wanted to do something. That's all. Yeah, that's the. It's an act of desperation. This film.
Is there, given that there have been a few screenings of both of this package, I always like to listen to the sort of questions filmmakers have for each other sometimes. Given that you've all watched each other's films and you're very familiar with it by now, I was wondering if any of you would like to quiz another person here.
Actually, I want to ask this to all three. See, I'll tell you why. Because mine still is a structured script, you know. So I can imagine somebody reading and saying, "Yeah, funny, acha laga, whatever." But I think three of you, in fact, it's a very the way you've done it or whatever it's very difficult from you know. So when you're telling somebody, I have a script, तू ऐसा कपड़ा पहन के जाएगा और ऐसा ऐसा करेगा, and then or when you are telling, like you said, you know, you don't have you have a story, right? But when you're going to tell your crew, I think you also have developed this. So did you all at any point feel ke, am I doing the right thing? At what point did you feel convinced to say, nay, I'm going to go through with this? I'm sure you must have at least somewhere, like you said, forget the attendant, that you're already shooting, but at early times, kabhi to you must have felt, ke, am I doing the right thing, or looking at people, or how do you convince people across, you know, that though you have just a thread or you might have something in your head, like how do you convince them that this is something which is to be a part of it or kind of?
So my straight answer is a lot of money, more money than you'd, because I actually realized. Yeah, I actually realized. लो एंड धर्म नहीं आई एक्चुअली रियलाइज बहुत पैसा नहीं मतलब जो होता है उससे ज़्यादा ही दो ओके कैलकाटा में यूनियन को भी दो इनको भी दो सबको दो पैसा बिकॉज सी आई एम नॉट अ नेम व्हाई वुड पीपल वांट टू वर्क फॉर मी यू नो एंड इन दीज डेज everybody has to run their kitchen, you know. So like for example, we had the days of shoot, Narendra Modi comes to Calcutta, waterway permission gone. ओके नेक्स्ट गंगा सागर मेला बोट नहीं मिलेगा तो मेरा फिल्म ही अटक जाएगा. इट्स अ विंटर फिल्म यू कांट इवन से आई मार्च में कर लूंगा मैं. ओके पैसा लो भाई. तो आई न्यू दैट like Mithun and I have been doing this in like that's why I love Milind because we are both from advertising background and left that and trying to do something here. You know, in fact, he's one of the path-breaking people who started this entire trend of advertising people, you know, moving to filmmaking. Yeah. So we knew that when we do a production, we know कि इसका 20% ज़्यादा ही होगा. ऐसा है तो ही काम चालू करो. The day we did some jobs, we made that kitty. We have very simple lifestyles. We don't have gaadi, bangla, makan, nothing. This is what we do. Okay. So when I realized that even if there is a contingency plan, we'll still be able to finish the film. Haath lagaya, and trust me, all that problem occurred. So I will tell you my simple answer is I put money, all my money to make this film. That's all.
Mm, uh, I think like for me working with friends, like all these people जिनके साथ ये मेलोडी टेप बनाए, इनके साथ मैं हर शाम को बैठता हूँ, फिल्म देखता हूँ, हम बात करते हैं. एंड आई थिंक मेजर पार्ट इज़ द कम्युनिकेशन. उनको मैं बताता हूँ कि यार मैं ये सोच रहा हूँ, एंड वो कहते हैं हाँ सही है, करो, चलो करते हैं. सो शुरू से ही अगर बेसिकली एक बिलीफ सिस्टम बन जाता है तो बेसिकली आई फील दैट वो सेल्फ डाउट खुद ही चला जाता है. ऐसा नहीं है कि वो कभी एग्जिस्ट